Welcome to the SoftCo Leaders Series, where we invite people to talk to us and share their insights on leading teams or leading business transformation. I'm Susan Spence, co-founder of SoftCo. We build financial automation software that is used by organizations worldwide, including Grafton Group, Primark, Finnish Government, and Sunny Delight. Today's topic is automation strategy for growth, and my guest is Brian Conneely, who is the Finance Director of Chadwicks Group, the leading builders merchanting company who are over 200 years old, have 50 stores throughout Ireland, and have 1,300 colleagues. They're part of the mighty Grafton Group, whose revenues are in excess of 2.5 billion annually. Brian, thank you for joining us. Last time you and I spoke, it was a Friday actually, and you were wearing your County Gaelic jersey. Now, I know you're a rugby fan, so what is it, Gaelic or rugby?
Hi Susan, thanks for having me on. Look, I love all sports, team sports in particular, but I grew up in a GA household, and I suppose GA and Gaelic football has always been my number one. I grew up in County Meath, which when I was younger, we had a very strong team and everyone supported the team. We're not going as well these days, but thankfully our ladies team won the All-Ireland for the first time ever last year. And I was there at the final with my wife and kids, and it was actually one of the best days out I've ever had. And those ladies are an inspiration to all the kids in Meath at the moment, so it's brilliant to see.
Yeah, I know, that is absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's just the amazing thing about the growth of women's sport, isn't it? It is fantastic. I know I'm biased, but it really is great the way, they've contributed so much.
Oh, it is. And like I've 3 boys at home, but for them, those girls are their heroes now at the moment. And to see the growth even locally in terms of the ladies teams and everything moving more equal in terms of resources, so on. It's beyond time, and it's great to see.
No, I agree with you. To a little bit more boring things, you've been in Chadwicks now for 18 years. You've been part of the growth. Tell us a little bit about your role in Chadwicks.
Yeah, look, it's like my eyes water when I hear 18 years. 18. I don't know where it's gone, but I joined here. I trained as an accountant in Deloitte and joined here 18 years ago, and thankfully, came up through the business. And I'm in my 7th year now as finance director, and look, it's been a great experience. I suppose initially, before I became FD, we went through the whole financial crisis that hit the world and hit Ireland and, hit our company and the construction industry very badly. But since becoming FD in 2015, we've had really good sustainable growth. And we actually, in my time as FD, we've doubled our turnover from just over 300 million to over 600 million. So it's been really exciting, a lot of organic growth and acquisitions and so on. So look, we're in a great place. I think the sector we're in, there's a lot more room to grow over the next number of years. There's a housing shortage in the country, and there's a lot of people going to be retrofitting their homes. So look, we're in a good growing sector, and it's very exciting time.
Yeah, it's really, really impressive. I mean, that kind of growth and that consistent growth through good times and bad is absolutely, incredible. I mean, the one thing it always raises is, how does the IT strategy and the whole automation keep pace with that growth?
Yeah, well, look, it was a key part of enabling the growth. As a business, we always have a 5-year plan, a rolling 5-year plan. And I suppose we're always looking ahead at where we want to go. And then you have to figure out how are you going to get there. And look, the whole IT piece is central to it, and technology and embracing automation and so on. I suppose for us, we had a number of challenges as we were growing, and if you stay the same, you run out of resources to be able to service the growth. So figuring out what areas you want to target for automation and then introducing it and getting buy-in from the business is key to enable us to grow. And without the automation, we'll talk about it later, that we have done, we would have not been able to service the growth that we have had in the business. It's been vital.
And how do you prioritize that automation, those pieces of automation in your industry? How do you say what's more important than the other? Is it just the pure volume, or are there specific areas that you need to automate?
Yeah, well, look, I always look at, when I make a decision, I might oversimplify it sometimes, but I always look at it from two ways. I suppose without our customers, we'd have no business. And then without our people within our business, we'd have no business either. So whenever I look at a project in automation, I always look, will it make the lives of our customers easier and or the lives of our people easier? So that's how I streamline things. And I suppose I look back at how we used to do things when I joined, and lots of paper, lots of envelopes coming in from the postman or woman, and people opening them up and stamping them, and off they go on their merry way. We would not be able to be a 600 million business if we kept doing that. So I suppose for us, I looked at the key areas, the AP end, the AR end, the banking side. In my finance roles, they were the three key areas we would have targeted over time to automate and improve.
And like these projects require huge resources, in terms of people. How do you how do you actually resource those projects internally? Do you have a queue of people saying, I want to automate AP?
Yeah, no, well, you don't at the start, no. I can actually remember when we started, some people coming into me telling me this would never work, and thankfully we persisted with it. But there's a shortage of people worldwide at the moment to get in. So actually getting people full stop at the moment is difficult, but getting people onto these projects can be difficult. Now, I'm finding it a lot easier now because there was a bit of worry at the start when you start these projects a number of years ago, people a bit nervous, but it's so key to involve people from within the business in them. And I think if you're going to involve them, you have to look at their present workload. You might second them in, you might have to redeploy some of their current workload, take some work off them because you want this project to be a success. And I think I've learned over the years, if you have people in on projects that are stressed out because of other work, it's probably doomed to fail, So I think setting up people in the right way to be able to give their time to the project is key because that will give it every chance of success. And what I find, Susan, as well is the more projects we've done, there's actually is people now wanting to be on them. At the start, there wasn't. So I think the more success you have, the more
success breeds people putting their hand up and going, I want to be part of that.
Exactly, and I think they've seen what it's brought to the business and how it's made their roles easier and actually given them far more fulfilling work. I don't want people opening posts and doing what may be deemed boring. So I want them involved in making real improvements for the business. And people have seen that over time and they've embraced it. And now, to be honest, a lot of these projects sell themselves, which is really where you want to be.
When you embark on a project, be it AP, AR, or any other part of the business, do you set out from the beginning, this is what we want to achieve? And if you do, how do you then measure that?
Yeah, we do, Susan. I think, first of all, we have to make sure it's a real world problem we're solving. I think there's no point bringing in technology if it's not going to solve an issue that will help our people and or help our customers. But in terms of targets, for me as a finance director here, it's very important that we pay our suppliers in full and on time, that we collect our money in full and on time. So we look at where we are at the starting point and we have an aim of where we want to get to. So, for example, I'll give you a real life example. When we introduced automation on the AR side, our debtor days as a business was 73 days. Now, for the construction industry, that was pretty good. And we set a target of getting it to 60 days because we knew in our sector, getting it to 30 wouldn't be really achievable and would actually alienate customers. So to get it to 60, our last 2 years, we've been averaging at 55 days. So that's an 18-day increase in our receivable cycle over the last 7 years. Automation has been a key part of that. It's not every part of it, but it's been a key driver in it. And that has been really important to the business. On the AP side, again, whilst we would have had a very good track record with our suppliers in terms of payment, because our process end-to-end was a bit slow and clunky, there would have been certain invoices missing their payment days. So we were operating at about 64 days. Our terms all in are 60 generally across the business. So now we are at 60 and I want to stay at 60 and I want to pay our suppliers in full. And we measure that all the time. Some other measurement tools we brought in from the AP end is, we have data now right to hand in terms of by supplier, by match rate, and we review that constantly. And if we know there's a little drop off in match rate with a supplier, with a second's notice, we can go in and say, we can ask, why has that happened? Is it an issue our end? Is it an issue their end? Have they changed system? And we can make the tweaks as we see fit. 7 or 8 years ago, it was real, your fingers in the dark trying to figure that stuff out. So there's real measurement there. We can see and improve how we do things.
So what I'm getting from you there is you've great visibility right across the business. And that must help hugely in terms of what you invest in next and kind of decision making within the business from a growth perspective.
Huge visibility. And, I'm often involved in conversations with the commercial, HR, operational side of our business. But say if you take the commercial side, for example, just been a number of times over the years, because I have that data to hand straight away, I might go in and say, supplier X, are you having problems with them? There's things here I don't add up for me. And they might say, whoa, I'm glad you raised that, because actually we are. And, there has been times actually we may move supplier on the fact of something we see from the AP end that has actually led to a broader discussion in terms of their overall performance. But I suppose 10 years ago, I may have been coming in at the tail end of those conversations, where now we're starting them, which is great. Yeah. And we're really adding value to the business.
Very good, very good. I mean, the other thing that we always find is when we're involved in projects is you have the finance people and then you have IT. How do you find they work together? And I'll come on to the supplier now in a minute, but in terms of IT and finance, how do you find that marriage when you're embarking on a major project?
Well, look, I suppose they're a different breed and of people, and we come at things from different angles. But look, I'm very lucky here in Chadwicks Group. We've great people and leaders in the finance end and on the IT end. So we know how to handle each other, I suppose, from the years and the amount of projects we've been through. But look, there is always touch points and differences of opinion. But I suppose from my point of view and sitting in maybe sponsoring some of these projects, I'm always looking at keeping in touch on a regular basis, whether it's daily at certain times, weekly, and keep on top of things before things ever come to a head. So to be honest, with the people we have here, we've managed it that way, and it's worked well for us.
Dare I say suppliers, a lot of comments I get is suppliers, particularly in the tech industry, they talk RPA, AI, and they don't necessarily talk about PO to invoice matching. Like, what's your pet hate with suppliers?
Yeah, look, some of the language, I suppose, I suppose technology suppliers will feel they're in the real world, and we'll feel we're in the real world. And I suppose that's the thing. I always try to bring it back to real world issues. So, for example, suppliers might talk about RPA and AI and so on, but I always bring it back to what's the real issue. And I suppose look at the moment. There is a global shortage of people. So to me, that's a real world problem. But RPA and AI can help us solve that problem. So if we hadn't brought in the automation tools we had, we would be struggling to get people now to service our business. So I think if both sides can talk about what is the real issue, the technology piece will fall in quickly behind that, but I keep it real. That's my advice always.
I agree entirely. I mean, how have you managed in terms of the pandemic and working? Has your work changed hugely with people working remotely?
Yeah, there's been a massive change. And look, in the construction industry, we have been slow to change. Would have been my criticism of our industry over the last decade. I think a few years ago, we were the second least digitized industry in the world, I think, after forestry. Now there's been huge improvements in recent years, but there's still a whole long way to go. But even in terms of our people, COVID, while it's been a really tough time for people, it actually has really rubber stamped what we have been doing. In the middle of March 2020, a lot of our people went remotely. It actually happened fairly seamlessly for us. And I always think back, if we hadn't done what we had done in automation, we would have been really struggling. But our team, our AP team, AR team, all worked from home seamlessly, and things happened as they would have. So in terms of the day-to-day, it was a massive success. I would say though, on the new project side and implementing new projects that were in train, that was more difficult. I think it's a learning we've taken from COVID. It was a bit more difficult to keep them projects going, and there was a couple of things that slipped that we had to keep an eye on. But in terms of the day-to-day, having the automation was a godsend. I really struggled to think how we would have got on without it. So people are working from home. We actually have people back in now up to 3 days a week. We went from a point early on in the cycle that people said they want to work from home fully forever. You had some people saying they wanted to be in here forever. Now, not many, but actually we did plenty of surveys, and the hybrid model was what everybody wanted, and that's what we have now. And to see people back in, there's actually a smile on their face. They're actually glad to get in and see their colleagues again, but still have that flexibility to be at home a few days a week. And look, I trust my people. I trust what they do. I'm not a big brother kind of person. We have the systems in place now. They do their jobs, and we're on hand to support them as and when they need it.
And going forward, obviously the business is incredibly successful. But going forward in terms of growth and automation, where next for Chadwicks?
I suppose in terms of our strategy, we are a 600 million business with 50 locations around the country. And because Ireland, is a small country, we're probably, in terms of coverage, we're probably struggling in terms of growth of where can we, we can't really do any more greenfield sites or so on. So our strategy is actually about adding more niche businesses to our portfolio. And we've one actually announced just last month. We 2 last year. So these niche businesses are going to be our main driver for growth over the next few years. And what we see in terms of automation is a lot of these businesses are more manual. Great businesses, great people, but more manual in how they do things. So the way I operate is, look, we bring these businesses in, we match the people. So it might be the AP and AR people in those businesses. We bring them up to our offices here, let them see how we do things. And to be honest, let them build relationships with the people here. And what's generally happens is after a couple of months is they're coming to us going, can we have that? which is brilliant, so we're not forcing things down on people. But in terms of what's next for Chadwicks as well, you would have seen the Irish government announced last week that they want to retrofit 500,000 homes. And the main drivers for retrofitting will be increased insulation and new heating systems such as heat pumps. That is right up our alley. That's the products we sell. So, in terms of our offering to our customers, where we have e-invoicing, we are moving to e-POD, we're moving to digitized product certification, which is very important now in terms of compliance, in terms of the products we sell. We're able to put that all on the one site for our customers, and with the aid of technology, and really try and become a one-stop shop for these customers and drive our growth through that end as well. So it's exciting.
Very, very impressive, Ryan. Absolutely. And going back to you, very important as well. Tell me this, your leadership style. Given that you're a Gaelic fan, is it that you take out the hurl? What's your approach to keeping, motivating, leading the business?
Yeah, well, look. Sometimes you have to ask other people what they think as well. But look, I'd be fairly clear in my style. No, I definitely don't use the hurl. I love working with people. I'm very much about people, and I think anyone in my teams would hopefully say that about me. There's a few key things for me. One, what you see is what you get with me, and and I'm consistent in that way. I might be having a bad day someday, but I try not to let it surface out beyond myself. Or maybe
is that when Meath loses?
Yeah, so it can be regular enough at the moment. Yeah. So, but look, being authentic is really important. Being approachable. I have this mantra, and look, I always say I don't care if the Grafton Group CEO rings me, or if one of my colleagues in the yard in Clonmel and Tipperary rings me. I will treat them the same. I will get back to them the same and do everything the same. And it's a thing in my teams as well. I always say, look, I don't mind who rings you. You answer the phone, and even if you don't know the answer, just tell them, I'm not sure, but I'll find out and I'll come back to you later. And it's really important for me that. The third thing is dealing with people with empathy. People have been through a lot. People have a lot going on in their lives, and I think over the last 2 years, people have been through a lot. And I think being empathetic and listening to people is very important. I'm a zero fan of micromanagement. I just don't think it works. I think my team would say about me, I trust in them. I trust in what they do. They know a lot more about their stuff than I do. So I see one of my roles is to let them do what they're good at, be there to support them when they need it, and have their back, because I always encourage them to try new things, keep me informed of what they're doing, but try new things, and I'll have their back.
So finally, Brian, what are the top 3 tips you'd give organizations that are embarking on automating their finance function?
Well, Susan, we mentioned it earlier. I think it's one, make sure it's solving a real world issue for the business. We can all get involved in technology projects and maybe be pushed technology projects that actually aren't adding any value to the business. So I think to make sure it is solving a real world issue for you, your customers, and your people. I think secondly, is finding the right technology partner. There is a lot of technology companies out there, and what I do is look at the track record they have. What projects have they delivered for other customers, and I'm always interested in the people side again, as in, are they people you can work with? Because there will be ups and downs in any project, and you want to make sure the people you have are by your side too, so that you can both work through these problems together. And I think that the last thing I would say is make sure you involve your team. I think any project that is pushed down on people will not get buy-in. So it's been very successful for us is involving the team, asking them for their ideas, and letting them own the project, because that makes it so much easier to get it bedded in at the very end.
Super. Brian, thank you very much for chatting to us today. Really appreciated that. Some great takeaways for people in terms of people and how you've approached automation and how it has been a great enabler for your growth. Many success going forward. And next time it's the rugby pitch, not the Gaelic field. Okay.
Yeah, listen,
or pitch.
thanks a million, Susan. I really enjoyed it, and I look forward to speaking to you all again. Take care.
Great. Thanks very much, Brian. Bye-bye.